Hi, everybody. A very good evening to you from Germany. My name is Mike. I'm the guy from Settling and Opportunity Pulse. And this evening, as always, every 2 weeks, I have my friend and business partner here, Steven from Chirota Consult and Opportunity Pulse. This evening, we're going to be talking about a very important topic. And for me, I see it as how to make the best use of the resources you have around you, how to go from just having connections to building a career for yourself, how to leverage on the network that you have. We will be touching on three key points this evening shortly. And I do encourage you to pay attention to the end. We will keep it as short as possible, 25 max, 30 minutes. And we're going to be hitting the point right away. What's the goal of today's conversation? It's about, as I mentioned before, making the best out of the resources around you. And what resources are we talking about? The connections that you have to build the career that you want to have. Before we proceed, I'll let my colleague Steven to give a brief introduction, and then also, yeah, tell us the essence of this topic today, and then we dive straight into the key points that we have planned to cover.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. First of all, I apologize to all those who are just following and watching us that my lighting is not perfect, but please focus on the content, not the light. So thank you so much for this wonderful episode once again. I think it's a valuable topic that we're about to discuss, as this probably has had an impact on both of us, but also from the
100%.
stories that we hear from many of our friends in our circles. It has had an impact whether they are in a job or outside of the job. Either way, it is one of the reasons that could be the reason. So that's why I'm very happy to talk about the impact of connection, especially focusing on the diaspora.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, you and I were a perfect example of that because we, got connected on a professional level, and
Yes.
that has moved from just from being a service provider to a client and vice versa to now business partners. And
Mm,
that's what we're talking about, how you leverage the resources in front of you.
mm,
So, what does it mean to go from connections to career? And what does it mean to strategize your networking? Um, so, Stephen, when you hear this, what comes to your mind first?
mm,
Connections to career,
mm.
Afro-Diaspora networking strategy. Why do you think this is relevant for us?
Extremely relevant, Mike. And I'll take it back to that story, how we met and where we met. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in this story of the diaspora migrations uh, experience, like we've been always saying, the biggest challenge that we're facing is that we're too qualified sometimes, but there's one thing that we're lacking in this
Yep.
exclusive environment: the lack of connections.
Yep.
That's why you always hear that I have all the papers that they need, I have all the degrees they need, I have all the certifications that they want me to have. But why is no one opening the door?
Yep.
I guess you have had this very so often. And,
Definitely.
and the challenge could be talking about Germany. I would say 60 to 70% of the job entrance points are usually through networking, through connection, through who you know.
Yep. Yep.
That informal business, what we call the Beziehung, the vitamin B.
Yep.
And globally, we're talking about almost 90% of the job points that always, the openings are always for formalities,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
to check the boxes that we have been very transparent, we have done everything according to the book. But if you
Yep.
find the person that told you about the job, how to apply, when to apply, usually it's a person that you know from somewhere. And that's
Yep.
why this topic is very key, very relevant.
Yep. Mm.
And then
So,
back to your point, Mike,
mhm.
when you say, why does this really sound so familiar? Why is this key to diasporans? I would say, yes, we have the qualifications. Yes, we have the certificates. Yes, we have the language qualifications as well. But sometimes we come with a different accent. You have your accent, I have my
Yeah.
Ugandan accent. And
Mm-hmm.
then we sometimes lack those very specific local references, that will help us to get
Mhm.
into that inner circle, that limited access, that insider network. And this
Mhm.
is where normally the decisions for employment or non-employment are made. And
Yeah,
then that's exactly why this topic matters.
yeah, yeah. So I'd like to touch on 2 points and then we take it up
Mm,
to also emphasize what this connection actually means. Going back to your point about 60 to 70% or thereabout of
mm,
how you land the job always depend on this connection. I
true.
just would like to also point out to the people that the connection we're talking about here is not necessarily lobbying or something like that. No, it's just a way to warm up the relationship. It's always nice that when someone is talking to me or you're talking to someone else, if there was a common ground, a mutual connection, some kind of introduction, it softens the relationship. And by that, I mean, you've gone past from being a stranger to a
Mm,
friend or an acquaintance or whatever, but you're not a stranger anymore.
true.
This, of course, means that before you leverage on that connection that you have to get that introduction, that you are the best candidate possible for that job or whatever it is. Because that's an excellent opportunity that the reputation of the person who is introducing you to that connection is at stake.
Mm,
If someone would introduce someone to me and I find that they're not a serious person, I don't care about the unserious person, but I care about that colleague, that acquaintance, that connection of mine that introduced me to an unserious person. My point being, if you're going to leverage on your connection to build your career, to get introduced to someone, to land that job, to land that business, to land that gig, whatever it might be sure to make the best use of it. And that means prepare yourself, be sure that you're qualified for it, be sure that you have all the necessary requirements. Because it does not mean that if someone introduces you to the other person, then everything is going to go just your way. No, there are
mm,
still certain things that still have to be preserved.
yes.
And then, um, if that's the case now, the next thing would also be how do you establish that connection? So let's say, Stephen, for example, there is a candidate or there's some of your connection. I mean, you've referred some people to me for internship before, and
True.
I can imagine that you've also done that for other opportunities.
Mm,
What do you look out for when you want to help a connection of yours to begin to build their career? You are a career mentor, you're a career coach, and you've
mm,
connected people. What do
mm.
you what do you tell them when you want to make this connection to say, okay, hey, I'm going to refer you to this person? And how do they come to you usually? Because I have some funny examples I'd like to share, but maybe I'd like to hear your story first.
So first of all, how they come to me and what do I look into this person before I refer them to another person. So how they come to me usually come through, first of all, because they know as part of my job at Chiroto Concerts and my other career consulting work, I help students, I help professionals to get into jobs or to get into school or into vocational placement. So they come from that point of in that background that
Hmm.
someone told me about you, or I got to hear about you. I saw you somewhere where you presented, and I'm in need of this, or I've been looking for a job for the last 6 months or 3 months. Can you help me to get me to the right person? Or I'm looking for a
Yeah.
job in this industry. Where is the best place for me to look for it? Now, before I even forward this person to anyone, of course, the typical questions would be, I have a very simple question I always ask, what's your dream?
Yeah.
And it's a very, very ambiguous question sometimes that makes people a bit feel awkward, or sometimes they don't know, like, in which sense are you asking about my dream? I was like, okay, what you want to achieve? Like, are you looking for a job? What kind of job? What kind of fulfillment should it give you? Or you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, like the people have referred to you. What should it bring at the end of it all after your interaction with this person? Let's say 1 year from now, what should it bring in terms of value? So I'm looking for the value in that what a person is looking for. Now, but before, if I take it another step backwards, before I bring you to this person to you, I want also to be sure that this person is going to be reliable, is trusted. Because, like you said, when someone refers you a person, yes, the person might not be the right one, but also you value the person
Mm.
who brought that person to you. You don't want to let them down. That's why you give your best. So before I bring
Yep.
someone to you, I want to be sure that this person is going to bring you value in line with what you're doing. Let's say at Settling,
Yep.
at Jirasoft, Opportunity Pulse, that the person aligns in those values, but also that the person is reliable and is trusted. Because the worst thing I want to do is to refer someone to you and that
Yep.
person screws up so badly, and then you say, "Why did you waste my time to refer that person to me, Stephen?" So these are
Yep.
some of the things I look at.
Yeah, totally. And then on the side of the person who's been referred, as I mentioned before, this is a golden opportunity for you, regardless of how familiar you are with that person. Because yes, you know the person who's going to introduce you, but you don't know the person you're going to be introduced to, and that's why the introduction is happening. And one thing I've learned so far, and more especially recently, is just first impression matters. We say it always, it's a common say, but it really does matter. It really
Mm,
does matter. And um, try to be the best possible version of yourself. It's not about pretending, but just to make sure that you don't get too familiar with the person that you're being introduced to, and then that you stay professional. I guess
mm.
this leads me now to the next point: how you build a professional network. Because uh, do you hear me? Because I feel like I hear myself. There's this echo, and I'm not sure why that sound is
I can
coming
hear
through.
you loud and clear, Mike.
Yeah, you hear me
Mm,
loud and clear. Okay, good. Then I want to connect that to how you build a professional network. So maintaining the tone of conversation, the tone and the style of conversation. I find it that within the community, people get too familiar very quickly and they
mm,
just settle. Maybe because you've seen that you have a similar cultural background as the person, you come from the same country, probably speak the same native language, you just get too familiar. I personally, I do not recommend that. Um, let the familiarity, if at all is going to come at any point, let it evolve naturally. But
mm,
try to maintain that professional ground on which you were connected to that person.
mm,
Because when you do that, then you keep the focus on the reason for the connection. Because you were not connected to go have a beer, to have lunch. No, we're talking about building career here. We're talking about you growing your career, whatever that might be, the job, the business, whatever that interests you, but at a professional level. So I think to just connect it back to the qualities that you look out for before you introduce someone, and
mm,
then that person who's been introduced, um, being prepared, I'd like to also add that you don't get too familiar, regardless of how close you might be culturally
mm,
or whatever that brings that you guys are similar in,
mm,
to maintain that professional level across every interaction, the communication, the way you write, if there's an appointment, if there's a meeting, even if you meet physically, just to maintain that professional interaction. And if things are going to get, less formal, fine, but do not be the one to begin to like chip that in. I don't know. What do you think, Stephen?
100%, Mike. That's very, very valid point that you made. Maintaining a professional communication, a professional distance, because the challenge is, especially I would see it in two ways, like where the power relationship is
Yeah,
this. So you're relating to this person who is very experienced, very busy, very connected, but also has an image somewhere in the society to protect.
yeah,
Um, so, and also the other aspect to it, beside the power relation, is the gender differences. So, where you have like to relate, or you're mentoring, or you're in a professional relationship with this person who happens to be of a different gender, you don't want to be misunderstood. You don't
yeah,
want to miscommunicate. You don't
yeah,
want to be seen as too pushy. You have
yeah,
just always to read how much is too much, and ask for like keep the boundaries very clear, and most of the time ask for clues. What should be how do you want us to communicate in this professional let's say mentoring relationship, should we stick to emailing? Should we stick to should we call? Is it okay if I call, if I WhatsApp? If yes, what time? So just to keep it as professional as possible and to be sure that you really get the value and don't push that value away from that person.
Yeah, I like it that you really mentioned the communication aspect, because I was going to, the next point I wanted to touch on is the communication media. And I find it that when people, for some reason, find a way to WhatsApp you, it kind of just changes everything. You know, I, for one, I do not recommend it. I do not recommend professional communication via WhatsApp. It's not my preferred channel of communication. WhatsApp for me is mostly for personal communication and not professional communication. And if should it happen for whatever reason, I think people still need to pay attention to the fact that yes, this is happening in WhatsApp, but it does not mean that we're now whatever. That tone of communication should still be maintained. But I genuinely would recommend, it depends on where that introduction happened. If it was a physical interaction, like in the gathering, and you were introduced to the person, then find out what's the best medium of communication, right? Because you are the one who is at the receiving end. So you should ask, what is your preferred means of communication? That is, if the connection happened physically. Then the other person tells you, and regardless of what channel of communication they tell you, try to keep the conversation still professional, the way you write, the tone. And if you're writing via WhatsApp, I don't think the use of emojis is necessary, because you wouldn't be using emojis when you're emailing someone or sending them a LinkedIn message and stuff. And if you would use, I don't know if they are professional emojis to use, but I find it that from my experience, people get a bit too, in a short time, they
Personal.
just personal, and then start using some funny emojis.
Yeah.
So the preferred, you know, if they tell you their preferred channel of communication, good. If they say WhatsApp, that's okay, but still keep it professional. And if the introduction was done online, then simply maintain that channel of communication until the other person say, okay, hey, can I have your number? Or
Yeah.
can you WhatsApp me? In most cases, they will tell you if you can WhatsApp them, and it's okay. But do not abuse it. You may not do it intentionally, but still pay attention to it. And I think I like the point which you mentioned, especially when they're like opposite genders. It's really important that you, whatever your gender is, that you are that you have your position, and be consistent. I'm not sure how best to say it, but try definitely not to lose the focus,
Yeah.
because you are looking for
Be clear
something,
headed.
yeah, and you should be intentional about that. you
Yeah.
know if it's going to lead to whatever, okay, but be sure that you're not losing the focus, that you're not, you know um I don't know, just losing the focus. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
And why am I emphasizing this? Because these are really tiny things that people overlook, and then over time you just wonder why things are not going your way. But the truth is, one, you lost focus, and then two, the opportunity was presented to you, but you did not
Yeah.
use it as you're supposed to use it, because you did not take it as seriously as you're supposed to. And lastly, over time, this now becomes kind of your second nature, and then it doesn't get better at all. Because if you maintained the right form of communication and conversation, if you are intentional and you kept the focus, one connection would lead you to the next and to the next and to the next you grab. But if you don't do that, then it's the reverse, so it doesn't get better. Yeah.
True. And Mike, the challenge of this, because the downside of our, like, not the downside, but the dilemma we have from the culture that you and I come from, we are very communicative people, right? We
Yeah.
hug, we shake hands, we're very expressive people, and this
Yeah.
is where we're talking about diaspora, so opportunities, connection within the diasporan space. So meaning,
Yeah.
if I am back home, let's say if I'm in Uganda, it could come as natural conversation, as a natural interaction. But I
Mhm.
had interactions here with the professor who was my mentor. And of course, you, even as you know this person, even as you've been chatting and writing emails to each other, every time you would meet, you feel like there is always that professional distance.
Yeah,
Even when
yeah,
you feel like your natural tendency will be to go and hug him to say thank you for this, then you see him taking a distance and then say, okay, so I have to keep that, right? So
yeah.
it is true what you're saying, but I understand from where we come from, we're very expressive people. We are very communicative people verbally. So this is something that we really have to be mindful about, that it somehow comes with the
100%.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's an echo from Mike's end. Okay. I got a feedback there's an echo from my end, and I've tried to fix that because I
Interesting. I
I
didn't hear
hear it.
that.
Yeah. Let's see. I suspected that.
Mm.
Thank you, Ini, for mentioning that. Um, I have to find a way. So this is going to kick me out for us for a moment, but I should fix it. I think it's gonna kick me out for a second, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, there's still the echo.
You still there? Yeah.
Still there.
Interesting. I can't actually hear it. I don't know why. Mm.
Yeah, it's it's really bad.
Mm.
I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Is
Oh,
one of the gadgets audio on?
yeah, but that's what I try to turn off.
Okay.
Yeah. Um,
How bad is it for those who are listening? Is it would it affect the content that they can't even hear you at all?
the do. Yeah. Ini, can you say again how bad is the echo? Yeah.
Is it bearable?
I hear it myself, so that's why I know. So maybe I'll let you do most of the talking.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh, I've been hearing it the whole time, and I wonder how it is for the audience. So, guys, really sorry about today's. It's like it's not. I cannot find where the issue is coming from. So, but anyways, I guess the last point that
Mm.
I wanted us to touch on is the settings for building this professional
Mm.
network and career.
Mm.
Okay, Ini said it's a little better. Okay, I'll try to speak less and let Stephen do more of the talk.
Mm.
Um, what do you think about the gatherings of most Afro-Diasporans?
Mm.
When you try to compare the different types of gatherings that they exist,
Mm.
how do you, what would you say regarding where we spend the most time and how this influences our professional career pathways? You know,
Mm.
like where we spend our time and how this can help us to truly be intentional about building our career.
Well, I think we have in the diasporan space quite a number of very useful meetings that happen monthly or by quarterly or so. Uh, the part I like most is when you have those professional associations or professional meetup groups, like the Africans or the tech those Africans or diasporans in tech, or those in health, or those in research and science. These are
Mhm.
very useful gatherings, and I would always encourage those who are looking for jobs or those who are looking at emphasizing the career progression to look out for those kind of meetings. And of course, there are those which you go to for fun, but when it comes to career advancement, they don't really add so much. I wouldn't put them into those career capital meetings.
Yeah.
But it's important for us to not to feel lonely, not to feel alone, or to feel that cultural connection. But when it comes to professional meetups, I would say look at the one that we had like last time in Hamburg.
Yeah.
organized by OSAS, the Africans in Germany, Africans in Deutschland.
Yeah.
Look at those ones that happened, like with the one that you attended recently, or look at those tech meetings. These are very high level professionals who are coming together, yes, from the same or different backgrounds from the African
Yeah.
perspective, but they always have something in common or something unique they are bringing to the table. And these, I would say, are very, very important meetings that we should always emphasize. Then, besides that, I think you will be coming to that. I would say we also have these outside of our cultural meetings platforms. This could be gatherings that's organized by the embassies. It could be organized by different professional groups. So it could be the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It could be professional, let's say the engineering or the psychologists or the historian or politicians, people from different political affiliations. These are very important meeting places that you can really meet valuable people, not just to collect business cards, but to meet people that you can really go and later on have a very interesting discussions or interaction when it comes to meeting, finding a job, getting into your first job, or changing to another job.
Yeah. Totally.
Mm.
Totally. Could you touch on, let's say you are fresh in Germany
Mm.
and you meet you are in a cultural gathering with many
Mm.
people that you don't know.
Mm.
How would you approach someone? And although it's a cultural gathering, which is
Mm.
quite common, but
Mm.
you are trying to, you're intentional, you want to build your career, you're looking
Mm.
for a job, you're looking for a business partner.
Mm.
How would you approach a setting like that, especially if you're new and you don't know the person directly? Would
Mm.
it be okay to introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, and try to
Mm.
find out from the other person? Or how would you go about it in a cultural setting? You're new, you're intentional about building your career.
Well, I would approach it always from the angle of I come to you, I want to just to know you. I always have a typical way of introducing myself. Hello, my name is Stephen Bwete. I come from Uganda originally. I am doing ABCD. And I ask maybe what is it that you're doing, or how did you end up in this meeting, or how are you connected to this place?
Yep.
In this way, I want to find out maybe they're here for the first time, or they're the organizers, or they have some key roles they are playing in this. And by knowing so, it enables me also to know how deeper to engage with them on this.
Yep.
Um, the reason I also tell them about what I do is because it has happened to me that so many times I say about my job, what I do, and then immediately someone will say, "Oh my God, this is the person I've been looking for. I was always looking for someone to
Yeah.
help me. We're just new to Berlin, and we've been trying to get our son or daughter in school. And is this something that you also do? Can you help me? Or you know someone who can help?" So I always tell them what I do
Yeah.
because it's always an opener for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And I find it that people kind of shy away from that. I don't know why. But again, if you want something, you should be intentional about it. There are lots of opportunities all around you. If you would take the time to find out or learn about one or two people for every gathering that you went, I think in no time you will find whatever it is that you're looking for. And
Mm.
that's the best place, in such gatherings, because there's already some level of familiarity. There is
Mm.
something that already brought you people together. So you're not a total stranger. So you can easily say hello to the person. And from there, you connect with them, you learn about them. And even though they may not have what you're looking for, they probably know somebody. And
Mm.
most times you can easily tell if there's the gathering, you can see that guy who is there with the wife, with the kid, probably tells you they've been here a bit longer,
Mm.
probably, which means
Mm.
there's a potential that they are kind of settled, which
Mm.
means maybe they're professional within the space or they know somebody.
Mm.
Or you can also see the organizers, who they are. And I am saying
Mm.
this from the perspective of someone who is new and you're
Yeah.
intentional about building your career. And this becomes also important, especially if you're still studying. or you just
Mm.
arrived in Germany on the opportunity card visa,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
something that's still fresh. You've not started
Yeah.
building your career yet. You have
Mm.
to be intentional. You have to be proactive. Most people will not come to you and say, "Hey, are you looking for this? Take it." No way.
Mm.
It's
No.
not the case.
Yeah.
So,
It
um,
comes very different. It can even be the last thing that will come to your mind. But
you know, and why
yeah.
am I saying this? So, Stephen, the reason I asked this question is because
Mm.
by default, the gathering that the community is exposed to is more social, cultural gathering than more professional gatherings. For the
Yes.
professional gatherings, you have to be intentional about it, get an invitation from someone and
Yes.
something. But what
Mm.
comes to you naturally in most cases are those cultural and social gatherings. So,
Mm.
which means that's where you're going to be spending a lot of time, and which means you should be intentional about building the connections from there. So,
Mm.
I think my final point for today's conversation is those places that you spend the most time, be on the lookout, pay
Mm.
attention. What are the people talking about? Who is
Mm.
talking in a certain way? Who are the organizers of that event? What do they know?
Mm.
Introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you're interested in.
Yeah.
Not be shy. You have to be outgoing, you have to be vocal. And I
Mm.
think people are very generous with those kind of information because it doesn't cost them anything. And
Mm.
anyways, this is a guy in an event that we have some kind of cultural similarity or social background. So they're very happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. And
Mm.
then that begins the conversation. You will see their connections, their mutual network. You will ask, "Hey, I'm looking for this, and I see that you're connected with this person. Could you
Mm.
introduce me to them?" So you're
Mm.
not a stranger to that person, and that person would feel comfortable introducing you to the next. And that's how
Yeah.
you build a professional career, your professional network.
Yeah. And Mike, again, to add on to that, I know the awkwardness sometimes when you come, especially this social gathering where you probably were invited there, you don't know so many people, you're very new to the place. Um, it can even be intimidating to start a conversation with a person. Sometimes you see people standing. I usually go to these people who are standing alone,
Hmm.
and I start a story or tell them a story about my experience being alone in Berlin and trying to get along and meeting people, and then all of a sudden it helps them to boost up their motivation and confidence.
Good.
Um, but the other point I would like to say, Mike, one thing that turns off a lot is if you get a person comes to you and straight away they go into that needy, demanding, and wanting attitude. I would say personally, if you come to me the first time we got to know each other in this kind of environment, um, try to get to know the person in the first place.
100%.
Yes, you might be having this needy situation. You need a job, you need an internship or a placement or something. Um, but try to show interest in that person that you're meeting.
Yeah.
Um, it has really touched me several times when someone comes or walks up to me and say, "Oh, hi! I've watched you or I've seen you. I've been really your admirer. I've been following your posts of recent, and it's so interesting that we are meeting in this place right now. What was your inspiration? How did you end up doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Someone showing interest in you, in what you're doing, will light you up as a person. It shows the person appreciates the moment to talk to you,
Yeah.
and he appreciates your perspective on the things that you care so much about. And
Yeah.
this is the best way to start. And if that person now gives you the opening to talk to you, at the end, don't feel intimidated to say, how can I remain in connection? Can I connect with you on your LinkedIn? And if
Yeah.
they open up to you, they give you a chance to communicate. The next thing I always do, I will write maybe a gratitude message. I say, it was really nice meeting you on this day at this event. It was great talking to you, and I would really admire continuing this conversation with you on this particular topic. And then don't stop from there. Keep following up. If you think this person could be your lead into a job, into an internship, into a student, a study place, and something like that.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, thank you for touching on that. Definitely. Because uh, there need to be at least that, um, a bit of the don't come and then the first thing is like, can you help me with this or help me with that? Um, how about we get to know each other first? What
Mm.
interests you, and totally, definitely. I guess the point is to be proactive, be
Mm.
outgoing, try to learn about the other person, try to learn about the other people, find out what's their interest, what do they do,
Mm.
and then build a relationship from there gradually and progressively.
Sure.
Good.
Mm.
So our time is up, 35 minutes now already. And I'd like to thank all the people watching from the different channels.
Mm.
This podcast is brought to you by Settling and Opportunity Pulse. Um, Settling is focused on connecting people when it comes to studying, working, living abroad. Essentially, how do you move from one part of the world to the next?
Mm.
An Opportunity Pulse is a nonprofit organization co-founded by Stephen and myself, and we're very intentional about what we're doing at Opportunity Pulse, and that is how we connect Afro-Diasporans in Germany to opportunities that exist. We know that these opportunities exist, but sadly, there's always that missing link. And our goal, one podcast at a time, one life event at a time, one gathering at a time, is to get you closer to those opportunities. And we hope that with this session, we probably have helped you to get closer to that opportunity that you're looking for. Speaking about opportunity, I did not spell it correctly, so do not mind me. Take the spelling in Steven's name as the correct opportunity. All right, Steven, final word from you, so we wrap it up for the evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Again, another interesting and insightful session. As the saying always goes, your network is your net worth. But it can only be your net worth if you know how to use it well. Um,
100%.
and how to use it well, be intentional, use it for network, for relationship building. It's not transactional. It's
Yep.
not what I get out of this relationship immediately. It's how long can I keep engaging this person to help me to get to what I want. And be intentional about meeting those people. Go out of your way, even if you're not an outgoing person, at least make it intentional. Be intentional to move at least once a month, visit one event.
Yeah.
Besides the social media, the social networks, LinkedIn is one place that you can always do meet people, but get out of that bubble and get out into the real world, meet
Yeah.
people. And when you meet them, remember it's not transactional. It's not about what your needs, your wants are. It's about you getting to know these people. It's about showing gratitude and about showing interest in what they're doing. And in
Yeah.
the end, don't shy away from asking for continuous connection. Connect with these people. And then in that process, you can then tell them, I'm looking for ABCD. Could you help me? Or do you know one person that could help me to get into this industry? That's
Mm-hmm.
how I would say that's how it should work. And yeah, I hope that the followers learned something from today. And again, thank you so much, Mike, and thank you for settling, for always putting this out together, connecting the community, the diaspora, and then Opportunity Pass for always giving us this opportunity to provide other members in the diaspora the opportunity to learn and to be inspired.
Totally. Totally. So
Yeah.
once more, guys, if you're new here, the conversation does not stop here. And that's why we're building Settling alongside to be that dynamic platform where further conversation will continue, where you can begin to also connect with other people in that space that you want to be. We know that most of our listeners are also outside of Germany or outside of Europe. So definitely feel free to start building this connection. For those who are already here, and by all means, um, wake up, I have to say.
Mm.
Then I wish all of you a nice Friday evening, morning, whatever time it is for you, and a good weekend later. Yes, everyone.
Cheers.